Some borders aren't drawn on maps, but etched in water by the wakes of vessels worth more than small nations. Monaco's harbour represents the world's most exclusive liquid territory, a shimmering blue rectangle where admission requires not just extraordinary wealth, but acceptance into a maritime aristocracy that predates most tech fortunes. From the champagne-soaked teak decks anchored in Port Hercule, global finance is directed, empires are managed, and deals beyond the imagination of ordinary mortals are sealed with handshakes firmer than most international treaties. The Mediterranean sun catches on polished brass fixtures and crystal champagne flutes, creating a constellation of blinding reflections visible to commercial flights passing overhead. Nature's way of highlighting where true power floats. When billionaires speak of our club in Monaco, they aren't referring to nightlife, but to an institution where membership lists are guarded more carefully than certain nations' nuclear codes. In today's episode of So Luxury Travel, we navigate the invisible currents, separating those who merely have money from those who possess something far more valuable. Acceptance into one of yachting's most impenetrable inner circles. Some borders aren't drawn on maps, but etched in water by the wakes of vessels worth more than small nations. Monaco's harbour represents the world's most exclusive liquid territory, a shimmering blue rectangle where admission requires not just extraordinary wealth, but acceptance into a maritime aristocracy that predates most tech fortunes. From the champagne-soaked teak decks anchored in Port Hercule, global finance is directed, empires are managed, and deals beyond the imagination of ordinary mortals are sealed with handshakes firmer than most international treaties. The Mediterranean sun catches on polished brass fixtures and crystal champagne flutes, creating a constellation of blinding reflections visible to commercial flights passing overhead. Nature's way of highlighting where true power floats. When billionaires speak of our club in Monaco, they aren't referring to nightlife, but to an institution where membership lists are guarded more carefully than certain nations' nuclear codes. The burgundy burgee of the Yacht Club de Monaco might look like a simple triangular flag to commoners, but in billionaire circles, it's the maritime equivalent of Willy Wonka's golden ticket, only with fewer chocolate rivers and more champagne fountains. Snagging this prestigious pennant requires navigating an application process, so Byzantine it makes getting into Harvard look like signing up for a library card, beginning with a handwritten application, because apparently in Monaco, computers are for tracking offshore accounts, not club memberships. Each application must come personally endorsed by two existing members willing to vouch for the candidate's worthiness, essentially promising this person has both sufficient funds and sufficiently tasteful boat shoes. This paperwork merely opens the velvet rope to intense scrutiny from a 15-member committee chaired by Prince Albert II himself, a panel that evaluates candidates not just on wealth, assumed to be astronomical, but on how they might contribute to Monaco's aquatic ambitions. The lucky 150 annual inductees receive their burgundy badges at a black tie cocktail party where they solemnly swear allegiance to a code of ethics governing everything from racing etiquette to environmental responsibilities, proving that even playground rules require formal documentation when the playground costs billions. The resulting membership directory reads like an encyclopedia of people who don't wait in lines. Tech mogul Eric Schmidt piloting his sleek Whisper, Saudi royal prince Al-Walid bin Talal commanding the monument-sized Kingdom 5KR, and Formula One magnate Lawrence Stroll, whose 315-foot faith turned heads during Grand Prix week like a floating Mount Rushmore. But behind this glittering facade of contemporary excess lies a nautical heritage so deeply embedded in Monaco's identity that one might suspect the Grimaldi family has salt water, not blood, flowing through their royal veins. Monaco's maritime obsession flows through royal veins, a nautical fixation that bubbled to the surface in 1862 when Prince Charles III decided that organizing fancy boat races might give his postage-stamp principality some seafaring credibility. These early regattas weren't just weekend hobbies for the wealthy, but calculated chess moves on a Mediterranean board, positioning tiny Monaco as something more sophisticated than a sun-drenched rock with favorable tax laws. This maritime midlife crisis took official form in 1888 with the establishment of the Société des Régates de Monaco, a rowing and sailing club enthusiastically backed by Prince Albert I, whose oceanic explorations suggested the Grimaldis might be part mermaid. The modern incarnation of Monaco's boat addiction crystallized in 1953 when Prince Rainier III, never one to think small, founded the Yacht Club de Monaco as the cornerstone of his master plan to transform a sleepy harbor into a floating bank vault. His inaugural speech revealed two ambitions still powering the club today: creating a private watering hole where the ultra-wealthy could discuss propeller designs, and turning Port Hercule into a cash register that would ring for generations. Prince Rainier's nautical strategy kicked off with motorboat exhibitions in 1954 that lured automotive bigwigs like Mercedes-Benz and Rolls-Royce to Monaco, presumably to see if their engines could make boats go as fast as their accountants' calculators. These exhibitions deliberately channeled Monaco's pre-war reputation as a proving ground for nautical innovation, establishing a through line of mechanical one-upmanship that endures in today's "my boat's bigger than your boat" culture. The club's ambitious regattas, including the improbably named Munich-New York transatlantic race, elevated Monaco beyond playground for the privileged to playground for the privileged with excellent maritime credentials. Even during the Cold War's deepest freeze, Soviet and Western European sailors found common ground in Monaco's waters, proving that capitalism and communism could agree on at least one thing: sailing yachts are magnificent toys. The royal obsession intensified when HSH Prince Albert II grabbed the club's presidential wheel in 1984, expanding membership from 800 to 2,500 representatives of 80 nations, essentially creating the United Nations with better cocktails. Under Prince Albert's guidance, the club invested heavily in youth sailing programs, ensuring Monaco's maritime traditions would continue even if global warming eventually turned the principality into Atlantis. A strategic division occurred in 1953 when Prince Rainier III, channeling his inner corporate consultant, split the organization into two specialized entities: the Yacht Club for those who preferred buttons and throttles, and the Société Nautique for purists who insisted on actually touching water. But even as the clubs flourished alongside Monaco's fortunes, their most spectacular achievements were yet to come, transforming from mere social clubs into bastions of influence and innovation that would reshape the very definition of nautical luxury. The club's 2014 relocation to Norman Foster's architectural fever dream, a floating liner permanently anchored at 43 degrees, 44 minutes north and 7 degrees, 25 minutes east, proved that when money is no object, buildings can indeed look like boats that never sail. Foster's 26,000 square meter temple to nautical excess features a stone-clad facade complemented by retractable fabric sails, the entire structure meticulously designed to resemble a cruise ship that accidentally crashed into the Monaco coastline. Beyond looking spectacular, the building pioneered environmental innovations, including seawater heat pumps, handling 80% of its climate control, solar panels, and locally sourced materials, proving that saving the planet and flaunting wealth aren't mutually exclusive pursuits. Interior designer Jacques Grange brought Art Deco influences throughout, most impressively in the double-height ballroom, where a 12-meter glass wall vanishes to merge indoor champagne sipping with outdoor champagne sipping. This cathedral to conspicuous consumption hosts everything from Rotary International summits to private concerts by Sting and Elton John, who presumably don't perform for member boat documentation seminars. The building's clever design, housing both the Yacht Club de Monaco and the historically significant Société Nautique de Monaco, embodies Prince Albert II's philosophy of reading the past to build the future, or more accurately, keeping old stuff while buying spectacular new stuff. Its 26 super yacht berths, accommodating vessels to 60 meters, and 500-seat auditorium allow the club to simultaneously promote United Nations Sustainable Development Goals while providing tech titan Larry Ellison a place to park his floating kingdom Musashi during race weekends. The club's flagship events have become the crown jewels of the international yachting calendar, with the Monaco Classic Week drawing magnificent anachronisms like the 1913 schooner Elena, whose maintenance costs could fund a small navy. Meanwhile, the Primo Cup Trophée Crédit Suisse, Europe's largest winter regatta, showcases technological showboating through futuristic foiling catamarans, with competitors unveiling hydrogen-powered vessels that produce water as exhaust, finally, boats that make the sea. Across the marina, the Société Nautique de Monaco maintains Monaco's sweatier maritime traditions, where aristocrats prove their worth through calices rather than credit limits. The SNM traces its blue-blooded lineage to 1888, established by rowing enthusiasts who believed that paying others to move your boat was fundamentally unsporting. The club's identity remains tethered to Prince Albert I, whose oceanic expeditions revolutionized marine science long before Jacques Cousteau made blue wetsuits fashionable. This scientific bloodline flows through Prince Albert II, whose maternal grandfather, John B. Kelly Sr., remains rowing's most legendary Olympic champion and proof that athletic genes occasionally skip generations. Kelly's superhuman performance at the 1920 Antwerp Games, winning gold in both single and double sculls within 30 minutes, remains the rowing equivalent of climbing Everest twice before lunch. As these clubs reached their zenith of athletic and architectural achievement, they faced an unexpected challenge: reconciling their legacy of conspicuous consumption with a world increasingly concerned about environmental impacts. Could institutions built on carbon-intensive luxury navigate the treacherous waters of climate consciousness without sinking their fundamental appeal? From Cold War diplomacy to 21st century environmental crusading, the Yacht Club de Monaco functions like a maritime mood ring reflecting yachting's evolving justifications for consuming extraordinary resources. Within these meticulously designed walls, billionaires' extravagant toys coexist with serious oceanic conservation efforts, creating a club where membership isn't merely about access to premium dock space, but induction into a floating aristocracy with exceptionally well-moisturized hands. Prince Albert II's Sea Index has become yachting's environmental conscience, grading vessels on a 0 to 10 scale based on fuel efficiency and hybrid propulsion adoption, creating a scoring system where 10 means still enormous but slightly less terrible for dolphins. The influence of this maritime report card became evident at recent Monaco yacht shows, where 68% of super yachts achieved C Index Gold status, suggesting that even oligarchs worry about ecological optics. The club's Monaco Energy Boat Challenge attracts engineering teams from prestigious universities like MIT and ETH Zurich to compete with experimental vessels powered by algae biofuel and solar hydrogen systems, college students essentially building eco-friendly toys for the ultra-wealthy. This environmental conversion manifests through mandatory participation in clean seas initiatives and yacht retrofitting requirements, because nothing says saving the oceans quite like a slightly more efficient super yacht. The harbour's 2010 renovation introduced super yacht pontoons engineered with reinforced concrete cores and titanium cladding, essentially floating sidewalks built to withstand both Mediterranean tempests and the occasional tantrum from owners discovering their vessel isn't the largest in port. These nautical parking platforms expanded capacity to 700 berths while implementing the Seaflex mooring system, synthetic fibers that reduce hull scratches by 73% because nothing ruins a billionaire's day like a scuff on the waterline. During Grand Prix week, pricing algorithms push prime berth fees north of €140,000 weekly, maintained through blockchain reservation systems that have probably generated more cryptocurrency conversations than actual cryptocurrencies. This astronomical pricing filters access to oligarch-grade vessels like Rybolovlev's 97-meter Scorpus and Arnaud's 101-meter Symphony, whose combined annual port fees exceed Monaco's arts budget. The Monaco Yacht Show, while technically not a membership club, functions as the industry's annual pilgrimage site, where 60% of global super yacht deals materialize, essentially a floating real estate convention where the properties already float. Recent additions pivoted toward eco-consciousness with sustainability hubs, showcasing decarbonization technologies for vessels that consume more fuel idling than family sedans do in a decade. Siemens Energy showcased hybrid propulsion systems demonstrating 40% fuel reduction, allowing owners to feel environmentally responsible while still commanding vessels visible from space. Charter brokers report increased client demand for sustainability plans, driving innovations like seawater hydrogen electrolyzers and recyclable carbon fiber masts, green technology advancements funded by decidedly non-green consumption patterns. As these contradictions grow more apparent, one must wonder, can these venerable institutions navigate the choppy waters between tradition and transformation, between celebrating excess and embracing responsibility? Port Hercule transforms Monaco's waterfront into the world's most valuable parking lot, where vessels worth more than small nations' GDPs jostle for prime positions like designer handbags on a Kardashian closet shelf. Positioned precisely at 43 degrees, 44 minutes north and 7 degrees, 25 minutes east, this natural harbour exploits a geological jackpot, a deep-water basin sculpted by ancient glaciers into a perfect amphitheatre, as if Mother Nature anticipated super yacht selfie angles. Beyond racing and environmental virtue signalling, membership delivers access to Monaco's formidable soft power machine, a nautical networking nexus disguised as a social club. A partnership with the International Maritime Organization established a specialized training center for small island developing states, while the annual Monaco Ocean Week gathers NGOs and policymakers to draft conservation treaties, mixing philanthropy with spectacular views and excellent canapés. The club's historical archives, containing Prince Rainier's 1953 inaugural speech and models of Grace Kelly's yacht, Deo Juvante II, received UNESCO's Memory of the World Register designation, confirming that even rich people's scrapbooks can be culturally significant. Tech-savvy members access the exclusive Privileged Access Cloud, an IoT platform providing real-time berth availability and concierge services, offering digital advantages beyond turnkey boat go. The SNM's flagship event, the Prince Albert II Challenge, has evolved into the Mediterranean's premier sea rowing competition, attracting 300 competitors from 22 nations who apparently enjoy getting splashed while exercising. Recent editions introduced heritage classes, featuring wooden racing skiff replicas, including laboriously reconstructed versions of historic Olympic vessels, essentially the rowing equivalent of driving a Model T in the Indianapolis 500. Prince Albert II's 1909-built Twiga serves as a floating laboratory marrying classic design with modern propulsion, demonstrating automated sails that reduce diesel consumption by 62% during recent regattas, proving historical vessels can occasionally teach modern leviathans a few tricks. Russian businessman Dmitry Rybolovlev's Scorpis repurposes Formula One technology through kinetic energy recovery systems that power onboard desalination, turning brake energy into drinking water, which might be the most Monaco sentence ever constructed. Formula One's arrival transforms the harbour into a choreographed spectacle where automotive and nautical wealth perform an elaborate mating dance. Michael Latifi's 96-metre Faith exemplifies this convergence with its helicopter pad, doubling as a VR simulator dome, transmitting real-time data from his son's Formula One car, because watching racing from a €100 million yacht apparently lacks sufficient excitement. Port Hercule's meticulous orchestration of wealth, technology, and nautical pageantry maintains its status as the Mediterranean's premier address, a liquid runway where the vessels get larger, the technology gets greener, and the credit card limits get higher with each passing season. In this exclusive liquid territory, the future of yachting is being charted not merely as a playground for the privileged, but as a laboratory for innovations that may eventually trickle down to benefit the wider maritime world. As Monaco's yacht clubs navigate between tradition and innovation, between conspicuous consumption and environmental consciousness, they remain monuments to human ambition, both its excesses and its potential for transformation. The question remains, will these nautical bastions of privilege lead the way toward a more sustainable maritime future? Or will they simply remain spectacular monuments to inequality floating atop an increasingly troubled sea? And now, we'd love to see you in the comments. Have you ever visited Monaco, or would like to? We can't wait to hear from you below, and thanks for joining us for another episode of Luxury Travel. Cheers, until the next episode.